All right, so then we can watch it back later. Yeah, welcome. Where are my panelists? Hello, okay, good to see some faces. Thank you for joining and making time to discuss this topic. I think it's very relevant for a lot of people and so many people among our alumni. And yeah, the topic of today is actually how to scale up a business. We'll speak about possibilities you have, what can you do, how can you do it, what did you guys do, and yeah, we'll hear about a few things that worked, ways that paths that you took, and I'm sure it's going to be quite interesting. Little tech announcement at the beginning. So to our audience, if you have any question, there is a Q&A button below here. If you just go onto that one, you can post just any of your questions and then we'll answer them at the end of the event. And my colleague Alexandra Hetting here will be the voice of the audience. So she will take all of your questions and make sure I don't forget any of them in the course of this webinar. Yeah, a few words about myself. I'm Vivian Blümel. I'm part of Green Solar Academy, and I'll be your moderator for today. My job in Green Solar Academy is actually putting together all the training content and making sure our participants get the knowledge they need. So now this is, of course, very interesting for me, getting some extra knowledge for you guys. Yeah, so now enough of the intro. Let me tell you who we've got here, our 5 panelists. I think we'll just start with the pitches. I'll introduce you with a few words and then you guys just start. I asked you to prepare a 3-minute pitch so that the audience get to know you. And we'll start with Helen. Helen Ortmann is General Manager at Treetops Renewable Energy Systems. And we've known each other for a long while. And I find it quite impressive what you built up and how you transformed your family business in actually quite a big company now. So yeah, tell us about you, Helen. Who are you and what's upscaling?
So our company name is Treetops Renewable Energy Systems. We're an established medium-sized company. I made a few notes, so I'm just going to refer to those if you catch me looking down. So just to get a sort of idea of our size, we've got 15 permanently employed staff members, and our installed PV megawatts is between 5.2 and 6. My numbers weren't quite updated, so it's a rough number. And then our installed battery capacity is between 5.2 and 6 megawatts. So that's sort of the size that we are. We started off in kits back in 2008, 2006, dabbling out of a boot. And then in 2010, we formalized and we've gone through quite a lot of changes, I think, in our business as the industry grew. When we started, it was mostly early adopters. And yeah, now we are focusing on large residential installations and small scale commercial. And our focus has moved away from kits and into professionally installed systems. I think I covered everything. Do you want my ultimate tip too?
Yes, I asked everyone to share as an opener their ultimate tip to scale up a business. So what's yours?
Okay, so I do have 2. My ultimate tip is to surround yourself with the right people who have the right skill sets, and make sure that you have your processes fleshed out. Those are my 2 ultimate tips to scale actually any business, but my specialty was solar.
Okay, that sounds very practical. Thanks, Helen.
Sure.
So next we have Junior, founder of his own company, Grange Services. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's actually also a trainer in our academy in Cape Town, and I know him as a very passionate person about renewable energy. So tell us about your company, Junior.
Sure, thank you, Vivian. Thanks for that intro. Can everyone hear me okay, just to confirm that? So, yeah, my name is Junior Legrandsie, Afrikaans, a bit of a beach bum from the Western Cape area of South Africa, and yeah, an electrician in the trade now for about 9 years, qualified Red Seal tradesman, and recently for the last 2 years, 2.5 to 3 years, been doing my own thing and actually started my own company, and yes, ended up with a whole lot more work than I had prepared myself for. And I think it's so many people can contest to the fact that running your own business is not easy. It's full of its own rewards and things that we struggle with and things that we go through. Nonetheless, we are a very small company at the moment. I would classify it as only a startup, but we are expanding and we are growing, and we are in the expansion phases of our business. So we are concentrating mainly on small domestic residential electrical work, but recently started expanding to renewable energy, battery backup systems, and after I attended the Green Solar Academy, I actually started going into the solar industry as well. Helen spoke about megawatts of installations that are out there already. I think we hit a total of 35 residential installations fairly recently. And yeah, I would be lying to you if I can tell you the correct and right capacity of that installation or those installations. Yeah, we focus on making service as simple as possible. I believe, and I try and always push this into everything I do and everyone that I work with. That service shouldn't be overcomplicated, and we try and keep it as simple as possible. So that's also our philosophy and motto that we try and follow. I would say if I had to give you my one big tip for someone to start and scale a business, it would be to answer to yourself, but also to those who work for and with you, that big why. That big why you do business, that big why you do what you do and how you do it. I think if we can answer to ourselves, and I'm sure almost everyone here can contest to that as well, is to say if we can answer to ourselves why we do what we do, we'll do it with a much greater passion and investing of our time and of our resources and of our everything, basically. We'll give it our all. And yeah, if we can help others to understand that why and answer it for themselves in their own way, they can partake in it as much. So yeah, that's me.
Good, thank you. I think you and your position in the market is what lots of our attendees can relate to. So good to have your perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Next up, we have Anton. Anton is also a trainer of ours in KZN. Not just that, he's a trainer, he's the founder of the Green Solar Academy KZN, and leading an empire up there in Balito. But tell us about Solarvest and what you're doing.
Afternoon, everyone. Sorry, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, so I'm Anton, owner and founder of Solarvest. Solarvest started out as a small installation company, like most guys in the industry. It was me and one assistant 10 years ago, and we started installing heat pumps and solar geysers. And 2 years after that, I got into the PV industry. And it took me about a year to do my first PV installation sale. And the first 7 years was quite tough, but installations slowly started to become 10, then 50, and today we're approaching about 1,000 residential installations. 3 years ago, I realized that there was a big gap in the market to supply quality equipment. So I started reselling the equipment that I've been installing for 7 years. And Solarvest now comprises of 4 separate companies, focusing on supply, installations, training, and warehousing. We're also in the process of opening 3 more branches in other provinces. So it's been 10 years in the making. People always ask, how long does success takes? I'd say it takes overnight success takes about 20 years. So that's me.
Good. That's good. So what is your one ultimate tip?
My ultimate tip would be, you cannot have a plan B. You cannot have another plan. All your focus must be on your business, and you have to put all your effort and resources into that business.
Okay. Taking notes on that one. Sounds like that's a success secret. I'll ask you more about that a bit later. Good. Next one, we have Nigel from Get Off Grid. He is brand manager for BSL battery at Get Off Grid. And speaking to him earlier, I found out that business management and brand development is actually one of your favorite topics. So thank you for joining, and tell us about what you're doing. And then, of course, we're excited to hear your ultimate tip.
Thanks for that. Just a preamble to this, my internet connection seems to be a bit wobbly. So if you miss me a little bit, it's because of that. Yes, I've got 2 roles. My first role and primary role is the brand manager of BSL lithium batteries for Southern Africa. And then I'm the business development manager at Get Off Grid. Get Off Grid owns the license for BSL batteries, so it's all in-house. So there's synergies in terms of both the roles. So in terms of this, Get Off Grid has been around for 10 years now, first establishing itself with Victron Energy Products. We are a distribution company, started off as an installation company and then became a distribution company. We now have over 2,500 customers, and we're currently entering our 3rd growth phase at this point in time. So we've been through 2 already. My perspective to share today will be based on how I've seen our installation and trade customers grow over time, and some of the things that they've done to make those transitions and some of the mistakes made along the way, and obviously as a supply chain, how we've come in and we've assisted. So my experience will come from more of a top-down view. My ultimate tip would be to know your marketplace. It's easy to think that you know the market you're in, but when you look at your market and you segment it in the right manner, you start to find gaps and you start to find niche opportunities where you can further develop yourself where nobody is, and you can start to monopolize in certain spaces. So that would be my top tip for this.
I think that's a good thought. With the market now developing and growing, I think finding a niche and analyzing what's going on is important. I'll ask you more about those different growth phases. I think that is interesting. But thank you for now. Last not least, we've got Wido Schnabel from Canadian Solar. Wido, you've also been on the board of Sabia for ages. And also I actually checked your LinkedIn profile yesterday because I wanted to see how many years of experience I can announce. It's many. you've been in the industry since forever. So I'm sure your view on the things is very broad and you have a lot to share. So tell us what is upscaling for you and in your company. We can't hear you. Do we have sound problems there? No, still can't hear you. No.
One in November. In November, we only have the super solar schools, and
We can hear Alex.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, now it works.
Okay, perfect. Okay, my name is Wido Schnabel, and thank you, Vivian, for the introduction and everybody here to participate in this solar presentation, or in the solar industry as well. Yeah, I did my first project, I think, in 2008 and 2009. It was done in Namibia, in the Namib Desert, in a place called Grange. It was quite a small system. It was 100 kilowatts back then. But it was quite exciting. And what I want to share with that is back then I paid 48 Rand per watt on a panel. Just to put that into context, that was back then about $7 US. Now we're selling in the region of, I would say, 35 cents to the end consumer. And that shows you how far we've gone with solar from then. And that's not so long ago. I've been since then 14 years in the industry, yes, and I was 9 years with Sapphire, and of those also 3 or 4 years actually the chairperson. Had treasury and other positions, vice chair. And I think Sapphire has shown that together, and that's what we're doing here, we can go far. Alone you can go fast, but together you can go far. And that's one of the tips I want to give. We have to team up to make this thing work. In terms of Canadian Solar, we are, sometimes depends on who counts and how they count. We're number 4, number 3, number 5 in the world, but I think we're number 1 in South Africa. That is in the CNI space. In the utility space, we haven't participated other than 2 big projects in round 4. But in the CNI space, when I joined and we started, or myself as a one-man show in the beginning, Canadian Solar in 2014, it was just the year when the REAP program stopped. And that is what I'd liked about Anton's point. Don't have a plan B, have your plan A. But in that instance, I had to have a plan B. And the plan A basically was, we stick around. We're just going to focus on CNI. And that's what we've done, I think, quite well. And the tips that one can give from that is, the first thing I did is put warehouses in place that had stock. That is number 1. If you have to tell the client, you have to wait for a few weeks or months to get your installation done, that's not good. Stock is king. That's number 1. The other thing that we also did, we put an entire team up. So, and that's really important to have local boots on the ground, have people that can service, that can, that are there, that one can talk to. It's quite important around that. And coming to this point of service is really, really important. And I had a lot of experience in that regard, and I'm sure everybody does. But I must say, I've also met people in this industry that if they say they're going to be here at 9 o'clock, then at 5 to 9, I get the call from the security gate and saying, there's somebody for you. It is so important that you are keeping to your promises, and that starts with when you arrive on site. But everything else is also very important, that people can take your word on what you do. In terms of the solar industry, I think we've grown since back then. I mean, we're looking at modules in the size of, I think our biggest I've just seen was a 670, and TopCon is at 690 watts per module. So a lot has been done since 2008-9 when I installed, I think it was a was a 205 watt panel. But the interesting thing is it doesn't stop, because the technology evolves and there's more to come. And I'm just saying we're in an infant stage of the renewable and the solar industry. We've just started. And for South Africa, and the opportunities that are there, they are massive. So everybody that's in this industry for the next 20 years, you will have a job, no doubt, if you work hard and get it done. Because if you fly and land or start from any of the airports in South Africa and you look down and you see any roof that doesn't have a solar panel, you've still got a job to do. So from that perspective, I think there's a huge opportunity. We need to build, just to give you a context, if we want to get South Africa off coal and nuclear and put it into renewables, we need to build about 80 gigawatts of solar PV, about 50 gigawatts of wind, and about 30 gigawatts of storage. And that storage could be battery, but it could also be pump storage, different kind of storage solutions. So that is to generate about the 265 terawatt hours that we need annually. But that's the beauty about this. It would give us an extra of 160 terawatt hours on top for free. And that's a huge opportunity for South Africa. There are about 6 countries in the world that have got such good sun, wind, and also mineral resources. South Africa is one of those 6. And we could be the energy exporter of the future. And that's really what we need to strive to. Now, everybody thinks that means large projects that going to do massive, big gigawatt farms. Yes, they will be part of it. But it's also, and that's more important, the CNI and the residential space that's going to take a major stage in South Africa. And that's really what I'm pushing in all the auditoriums I get. Guys, it is not all about the big things. It's much more about the smaller ones. And that's really what I would like to promote and support, that we go for the residential part now. And that's really has to happen now.
Wow, I think that's great, encouraging first words. Everyone has a perspective now, and everyone can set their goals. We'll take everything you said, we'll start taking that apart now and analyze to break it down for our audience, who is probably at the point where they say, okay, I'm ready, I want to be part of that energy revolution, but how do I start? How do I overcome the bottlenecks? So to see who is here, I have a short poll for all of you. It should pop up on your screen right now. And I would like everyone to just click where you're coming from. What kind of company are you attached to? And do you have any plans already on upscaling? Have you done anything? If not, it's fine. You'll get inspiration here. And I'll leave it open for a bit and then share the results in a minute. Okay.
Vivian, mine's got a host and panelists cannot vote.
That's okay. We know where you're from. It's for the
attendees.
Yeah, I see answers are coming in. We've got mostly installation companies, some consulting and planning companies, and then plans for upscaling are a few don't have a plan yet, and then we have larger projects and increasing staff or project volumes. Yeah, so I think we started that question already a bit. So what are the opportunities of upscaling? What can a company do? I think that was covered in your pitches, right? Anything we didn't have? I think we mentioned you can you can start on bigger projects, you can add different departments. Junior, you mentioned service. Anything I'm forgetting? What else? How else can we upscale?
I think diversification is one thing, and I'm someone that's also saying not always big is best. Have a solution for everybody. And I hear often the comment, yeah, but I can't afford solar. This is only for the wealthy, the rich people. My comment to that is everybody that has got a roof, owns a roof, and is still paying 100% its electricity bill to a municipality or ESCOM does have too much money. And I think that's where people can start. There is a huge lack of smaller system. And we're talking about modules, meaning modular. So one needs to have something very small that somebody can start very easy with. And one needs to have then scale it up to bigger things. So diversification is definitely something to grow your business.
What are the most important tools that a business should have to upscale? So where do you start? Maybe Helen, because I know you went through that. What is it that you need when you're in a position now where you say, okay, I want to start upscaling?
So maybe it's skewed because that's my sort of place, but I feel it starts in your accounting system. Because you need to know where you are, what you have a budget for, you need to plan your finances and then plan your growth. And then for us, we needed project management software that really helped us. We're a project-focused company, and making sure you have the correct planning tools or industry specific. So things like Helioscope. I know some of the suppliers offer planning tools for your mounting structure and your to make your kit lists and things. Those were the most important tools for us. So the first thing was getting our financial system to give us the information, and then our project management system to tell us, okay, where are we having stumbling blocks? And yeah.
I think you said the same, Anton, when we had the little pre-discussion. You said accounting is number one. What are you using? You had a recommendation.
So for small businesses, I would recommend Sage 1. I know a couple of guys also use Zero, but Sage 1, it's online, it's easy to use. I did accounting in Matric, which is many years ago. So even I could use it. And it gives you a good understanding of where you are with your business and what you can do and cannot do. But as you scale up, obviously your systems need to keep up. So we've gone over to Sage Evolution, which was a huge step for us. I've had to employ an accountant because of the software and how difficult it is to use it. But again, that comes at the stage when you're ready for that. But definitely a good accounting system, very important.
So what would you say, when is the right time to scale up, to start looking at more possibilities and bigger projects, actual accounting software, etc.?
I've always said if you have too much work and you cannot keep up for at least 3 months, you are just overworked. That's the time to start upscaling. So
3 months is your kind of mark.
But you need to burn the midnight oil every night.
Oh, shame. What do you say, Junior? I think you wanted to.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interject. So for me, I think I went about it a bit differently, and I'm still there where I'm doing that. So I decided to try and put as much in place beforehand. So because for me it was an option of paying 500 Rand for Zero software and maybe another 1,000 Rand for customer relations management software, or I had to pay someone part-time 5,000 or 6,000 rand a month to actually run those type of things for me, because I am hands-on every day, most days on site. I'm only now at a point where I'm starting to free up some of my own time. So I'm in that growth phase where I am actually freeing up more time for myself to be able to generate new business. And I think that ties in with your question of when should someone start thinking of scaling a business from day one. Like, and it's true, as you say, Anton, like it's in those midnight oil burning hours that you think of all these things. Where is it going? What is the plan? What is the future? And I don't think it would be unwise to wait for it to happen before you have the plan. Before you have plan A should be there from the start, like from day one. Make the plan, work the plan. Yeah, I think it's vital.
Can I add? I would also say, so you want to plan from day one, but you also need to have an idea of how big you want to be. To not just kind of continue to grow aimlessly. And it's interesting that, Anton, you recommend Sage. I'm just busy changing over from Sage to Xero, because Xero has got it's an open source software. So we use Monday's project management tool, and it also does our CRM, and you can open it up. And we decided to do the change because with Sage, everything was linked into Sage. So I think you went with Sage Evolution. Yeah. So, and the whole thing about when to scale up, when is the right time, is definitely down to like your capacity. So, if I see it all coming back down to your financial system, because that gives you an indication of your sales and your turnover, how big your market that you're working in is, and then you sort of scale it from there. So we are also busy on a business acceleration journey at the moment with the Auric Business Incubator. And it's very interesting. They literally focus on process and getting all your processes right. And the change from Pastel or Sage to Xero comes sort of out of that. And yeah. Don't know where I was going with that, but it's very interesting measuring your growth and making the right call at the right time to say, okay, am I going to go for the big complex inventory system, or can I make do on my basic one for now? And balancing all those variables, I think it's very tricky, and it's quite unique to your own business.
Yeah, definitely. But I think what we can take from that is that good data can definitely help if you have an overview of your business. It helps you to make an informed decision.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's start. I thought I would just pick your brains one after another. So let's start with you, Junior. Because you're an electrician, and I think many of the audience can relate to that. You spend time on site, you're excited about doing the job yourself. But then once your company grows, there's that shift between spending time on site versus spending time at your desk and looking at those numbers and planning that. So how do you experience that shift, and especially from the passionate electrician perspective, how is that for you?
So I am definitely experiencing a time where, I mean, there was literally a stage where I took anything between 15 and 45 phone calls a day while trying to wire up PV boards and lift panels, put up brackets. Like it was everything. It was just all one big mush, and my midnight oil had started running out. Where I was running in overdrive 99% of the time, and it wasn't healthy anymore, and I had to start making decisions, big boy decisions on where this is going. So for me, I'm there now where time is more getting split, and that takes a lot of time management, and I have to be diligent in when I do things and how I go about doing it. I find myself getting up earlier to do office work and staying later on sites, just because from a financial point of view, I need to justify appointing someone. I am the only full-time employee at the moment of this company. I outsource on an ad hoc basis labor. So I'm subcontracting other electricians, like-minded guys, on a semi-full-time basis to help out and get the work done. In this way, I can also always stay fluid in how I appoint time and free up financial resources to be able to reinvest in the company in terms of tools and other things. So yeah, I'm there now where I need to balance my time and manage it well. So yeah, I think to answer your question, it's hard for a hands-on technical guy to come into the office and only sit behind a computer every day. So I don't think I'll ever move into a position where I am only in the office and only in a management position. I have also appointed a guy on a part-time basis, 2 days a week, basically, where he can run some of the background operations management for me. So he's then the one that takes calls. I can appoint work to him beforehand. And in that way, it's just more effectively managed. So I'm not distracted on site and those types of things. So I try and plan my site intensive days, like today was one of those days, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then every other day, I am balanced between the office and outside. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely structure is key, hey? So plan your
Yes, most
day out,
definitely.
like, be strict with your routines.
Yeah.
And I think what you mentioned, like the 1 million phone calls a day, business owners must really take care of themselves, because like working too much is like threat to your health. But
Exactly.
yeah, definitely nice that you find time to also be on site and that you make that decision that you don't want to be the office guy. How did you find that, like, which tools did help you? We heard about the accounting tools already. Anything else that you can recommend from your perspective?
Yeah, so from day one, I'm the type of guy that does a lot of research before I do anything. So for about a year, I did research before making the leap, but then also into the software that I would use. And I went with Xero as accounting software because of its integrating abilities with other platforms. So I then link it with Tradeify, which is specifically aimed at tradespeople. There's a bunch of electricians in Australia that basically thought this piece of software up, and they're marketing it to the tradesperson industry. That then does my basic day-to-day scheduling, appointing of sites and work to other people, tracking of their time, tracking of my time, invoicing, quoting. I can do basically anything from generating a purchase order to adding equipment or adding material to my stock lists or those types of things. And that integrates directly with Xero. As soon as an invoice is indicated as paid, it stops sending automated emails every 7 days after the pay by date gets reached. It takes away the hands-on thing that is actually needed for admin, because it's something that if you drop the ball once, you're behind and you'll never gain back that time. So you have to stay on top of it all the time. I've experienced it when I was not on it anymore, and it's not a great feeling to just play like catch up all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to think of something that can effectively and almost in an automated way give communication out to my client base, whether they are new clients or whether they are an existing client that owes me money or whatever the case might be. Especially something like following up on unpaid invoices. You don't want to be spending hours on end just generating emails to send people that owe you money. So yeah, I do think software is what saved me a lot of money, saved me a lot of time, and I think partially my sanity. So yeah.
Definitely. And it correlates to what Helen said in her pitch, that you must have your processes in place. And I think automation is amazing. I see there's a raised hand among the attendees. For everyone, you have down here in that menu bar, you find a Q&A button. So you can just press there, and if you have a question, just type it in there, and then we'll answer it in the course of the webinar. Yes, so moving on. Helen, you mentioned that, or I know that Treetops has been around for a while, when the market was still so small that you didn't have much of a choice to say where you want to be. It was more like going with the flow, seeing how it develops. So how much did you plan, and how much of your developing was really just going with the flow and seeing what happens?
So in the beginning, so back in 2012, from 2010, when we formalized, that was very much organic, very small, not a lot of movement. And I think Wido mentioned 38 Rand a watt. I remember when a panel cost about 14 or 15,000 Rand for one panel. So at that time, it was very much organic. And then from about 2015, we started to really sort of refocus our growth. And we were always very cautious not to expand too quickly because the industry was still very new. There was not regular supply or reliable supply always of products. So I also very much agreed with what Wido said earlier, that stock is king. We had to work off full shelves. You couldn't run a company off of empty shelves. So I think that for the companies that are starting now, it's quite a different industry. I think stock is a lot more readily available than when we started. But to come back to your question, it was an organic growth, and we've gone through incubation processes, and now we've just started at the beginning of this year with a business accelerator. So we really are planning bigger, much bigger growth than before. So that's a very exciting journey that we're on there, and it's opening up a whole new world of, you know, what makes up a business and how do you successfully grow a company. Yeah, so did that answer your question there?
Yes, it did. And seeing the growth, what kind of challenges pop up over time? Starting as a small company with just like family business, just a few employees, versus having a certain number of staff like you have now. What changes from the business or management perspective?
So you definitely have to be effective in delegation, and if you delegate effectively, you need to then manage effectively. And something that you learn very quickly is if it's not measured, it's not managed. So to make sure tasks or duties that you give out, that you actually have tight job descriptions, what you expect from people, that type of thing. And our growth has been very measured. So we've maintained like quite a steady growth rate since 2014. And then the last 2 years, it's been quite, I want to say astronomical, but that's probably an overstatement. I think it's general across most of the companies in our industry. I think it's just balancing that growth rate. That's been the biggest challenge, because it's when do you scale, and there's times where I've also, so we're led by 3 people in our company, and all 3 of us are burning the midnight oil. And when it gets to the point where you're feeling rather shaky, that's too late to scale. You should have scaled sooner. So that's been quite tricky to manage, because you need to make sure you've got your, you have to be able to manage everything. So you need to be able to grow at a pace that you can sustain without going bang. There's a lot of companies in our industry that just load shedding hits, they expand, and then 2 months later they just pop because they've grown too quickly.
Yeah. Where did you learn everything about management? Do you have any information sources that you can recommend where somebody who's new to the whole managing staff game can look up?
So I actually did a BCom in management, so I went to university and got my degree. But also we use an HR consultant, and I have a mentor who helps to guide me. If I'm struggling with something, then the mentors that I work with generally are older, have more experience. I think I'm quite young for my management position and what I do on a daily basis. So I very much rely on my network. Yeah,
that's a good tip. Alumni network. Hey. you have lots of people around you who go through the same. Yeah,
and as you grow and manage people, you also learn about yourself, and you need to understand how you work before you can understand how other people can work, and then you need to understand how they work to manage them effectively and get them to really perform.
Yeah, true.
So your resources, also Google's a great resource. Often, I mean, I think when you start a business, you don't always think about the fact that someday you're going to have a big staff, and hey, what are the rules around family responsibility leave, that type of stuff. So the internet is a great tool to find out sort of an idea, and then rely on professionals who know. So
yeah, definitely, that's a good tip. And exchange with people who are like at the same stage of development, I guess. Like that's what we do. Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Jumping from developing, adding the first staff, into running a very successful company and having lots of things going on. Anton, if you break down the past years and look at how Solarvest developed, what do you think made Solarvest grow that big and that successful compared to other companies who maybe started at the same time but stayed small and didn't reach that amount of installations or success?
Well, first I'm a firm believer of corporate branding. And I got this from my years spent in the Navy, wearing uniform every day. And branding gives a business credibility, and it sorts of create a household name. So if your brand is visible and well known, that goes a long way to establish yourself. And I brand everything that I can. Today I'm wearing, as you can see, the Green Solar Academy shirt, because we were doing the PVA today. But other days I would be wearing my Solarvest shirt. And for me, if you talk about branding, everything has to be the same. Even the colors has to match on everything. We get a lot of people asking, how many vehicles do you actually have? Because we see them everywhere. It's not the amount, but it's because the branding is striking. And if you see the same vehicle twice a day, you already think there are 2 of them. So one thing about branding for me, you have to get a professional to design it. My first sort of designs I did myself, and I was very happy with them until I got a professional. And I said, we can do everything, but we're not going to change my design. And she sat down and came up with a design, and I said, wow, well, that's 10 times better than mine. So get a professional to do that for you. And then what I always say is stick to your guns. Consistency is the key word. You have to stay consistent in everything that you do. After sales service is probably the most important to stay a credible business. You know, as soon as your after sales service is not what it's supposed to be, then it just goes down the drain. I always say, if you go to a restaurant and you did not like it, you will tell 10 of your friends to stay away. And if you go to a restaurant and you loved it, you will tell your 2 best friends to go there, and they will spend all their money there. You know, and we've grown purely from referrals. We've only recently started with marketing campaigns, probably 2 months ago. You know, and before that, everything was referrals. So I always tell clients, you know, when you pay your deposit, you should only pay the rest of the payment when you are happy. If you're not happy, we will do our best until you're happy, and then you can pay. And we've never had a client that hasn't paid once the job was done and handed over. So I've always wanted to have a comprehensive handover procedure, and I never had the time, so I employed someone to do it. And the feedback that we get from clients is that they've never experienced anything like it. So yeah, for me, after sales service is probably the most important. Yeah, that's probably.
That's cool. Also, that you mentioned you had a plan, you put it into action. You, like Helen said, you checked execution, and now that it's being done as planned, it's a massive success. That's really cool. One more thing, you told me also earlier that you now took an interesting decision. You're stepping back from like heading your company and you're employing a CEO now. How did you take that decision? Is it hard? Like, does it feel like you're giving up your baby, or what is it?
Well, to be honest, you know, when you grow and become more successful, want to become more successful, you have to work yourself out of a job. You can't work in your company, you have to work on your company. You know, a business is something that will carry on making money. If you on holiday for a month, it should still make money. If it doesn't, then you basically have a job and you on paid leave. So you basically have to work yourself out of a job. And I can relate to Junior where he's at the moment. You become everything, and you become good at doing everything. But at a point, you need to hand that over to someone else just because of the workload. Now, I'm also a qualified electrician for the last 25 years, and I'm very hands-on. So sitting in an office, if I do that for a whole day, I just go crazy. I can't do it. So now I'm employing people to sit in offices, like an accountant and a CEO. And my my joy is the technical stuff, and the training with Green Soul Academy I enjoy thoroughly, and then also the technical backup that we give to our customers and clients. I like to be out there, and basically you have to teach people about solar, because 90%'s got no idea what they need or what they want. So having a CEO running the administration part of the business will give me that freedom to get out there and do what I like.
That's good. And when it's training, we even appreciate it more. Yes, just a reminder to all in our audience, we have that Q&A button down there. So if you have any questions to our panelists, just pop the questions down there, and then we'll get to them a bit later. Good. Then, Wido, you said you introduced Canadian Solar and you started as a one-man show back in 2014, I think you said. And then you turned Canadian Solar in South Africa to what it is now. Like, I remember at a point of time, it seemed like there's no other module brands here available, just Canadian. It was really crazy. So how did you do it? Can you kind of break down the process? How did you tackle that project? And can we learn anything for being a solar installer? Can we adapt anything of your process?
Yeah, thanks, Vivian. I think I said it earlier, stock is one thing, so you need to have warehouses. But I think one other thing when I listen to everybody and what I see also a lot in the market is you shouldn't burn your midnight oil. And what I mean with that, you should learn to say no. So don't take a job on that is not worth it. If you know what your quality is and what your work is worth, then charge that. And if somebody is not prepared to pay it, then say no. It's really important to do those jobs that you really like to do, that you're passionate about, and that you can deliver a quality work. And that's really important, that it's at the end of the day a quality job that's been done. And as Anton said, you want your customers to pay on, once they're happy. It's really important that you get customers to this point. And I think we have strived as Canadian Solar not to be the cheapest, definitely not. And we've always said we've got a quality product, and we would like to keep that kind of level. And it's inherited in Canadian Solar from the word go. When Sean Chu started the company, his story when he started off getting a contract from Volkswagen to build little solar chargers for cars that were on a factory yard, and the batteries depleted while it was standing there. And he took pride in doing a professional job, meaning he calculated what is the solar radiation behind the windscreen. He calculated what is the losses that you have, because inside the car it's about 60, 70 degrees. So all of these things he made sure he accounted for, not just put a little trickle solar charger in. He made a proper PhD thesis out of that charger, his first product. And all of these things are still within Canadian Solar. So we try to make sure that these products is high quality. That's really what we strive for. And we lose also projects, we lose deals. That's to our into other solar manufacturers. And I think that's fine. And I've got this saying, guys, there's enough sun for all of us in Africa. We need to grow the cake so we all can eat enough and not fight each other about a small piece of cake. So there is really enough sun, there's enough work, and one should really grow your business in terms of quality and about stuff that you are passionate and proud of. So you need to walk away from an installation and say, this is what I've done. This is my installation. I can bring people here as a reference and say, look at this. So that is really important, I think, where we strived for Canadian Solar in South Africa to have people on the ground, to have not work just with agents or you know, consultants. We really try to make sure that we're here. That's one thing. The other thing, and few people might have known, we've always done also trainings. So we try to train people on our products and on installations. We had a lot of trainings we tried to do. Then, of course, when COVID hit, we had to stop these kind of things. But it will come back, that we really engage with our clients and their clients, the installers, to show them what's best in terms of the product. So yeah, I think it is that personal relationship. It is making sure you've got a quality product, and make sure that you not just in for the cheapest things, that the market is big enough. It's really not needed to kill each other on a price. That's not needed. Do a quality product.
Yeah, I think that is definitely confirmed by seeing how quickly the cheap products change in the market. Hey, we had that Expert coming, we had the Kodak coming. Now it's everything, the Samsung, and those are like fluctuating, but those reliable brands are here to stay. So I find that very impressive and kind of encouraging to go the quality route, because you see that there are already examples that had great success.
Yeah, I think one thing that one also needs to know is, and that I said earlier, it's not all about the big projects. And I want to put this question out there. What do people think? How big is the South African market, the solar market, until now? So when we started, let's say, I think I've got numbers from 2009. Till today, how much solar PV is installed? And I asked my panelists, because just to answer that, or maybe the participants can put that into the Q&A or chat. What do they think? How many megawatts or gigawatts have been installed so far in South Africa?
I'm definitely out on that one.
Anton?
I'm not a number person. Any guesses?
Nigel, Junior, Helen, just give us an idea. What do you think?
I don't know, maybe 800 or 900 megawatts.
Okay, it's a number. Anton?
Is it very far?
I'm guessing, but I think about 20 gigawatts.
Okay, it's not that much, but okay.
I think if I had to take a wild guess, I would say probably around between 4 and 8 gigawatts.
Okay, outside of REAP. So we know the REAP numbers. The REAP numbers are roughly about 3.6 gigawatts.
Okay.
That's what's around 1, 2, 3, and 4 was installing. So I want to know everything outside of that. Yes, there are some bigger projects, like the Amazon project that was done in the Northern Cape called Adams.
Yeah.
I mean, that project was, I think, 11.7 megawatts. But yeah, Nigel, do you've got a number?
I think about 4 gigawatts.
You're getting very close. So just to give you an idea, I think the number is roughly about the same, or actually bigger than the REAP number. So we're roughly about 3.5 to 3.8 gigawatts in South Africa installed. And just to give you an idea that what is the growth. So we had up until 2019, end of 2019, we had about 1.5 gigawatts installed in South Africa. 2020 was about 800, although it was COVID. Same with 2021, also about 800 megawatts. And then this year, so the first 2 quarters up until June, it was roughly about 750 to 800. So we almost doubled in the first half of this year already. And I'm expecting that by the end of the year, we're going to be roughly about 1.4, 1.5 gigawatt for this year, 2020. And that's what I'm saying is that the smaller installations will make a huge impact also to our grid and to our energy supply. Every single electron counts. And that's really what my promotion is all about. It's not just those big ones. It is the many, many, many small ones that can make the huge difference.
And that's actually the cool thing about solar, hey, that you can have it can be any scale. It can be very small and it can be very large.
Correct.
Cool. Good. Then, Nigel, I kept you waiting for a long time, but I also have a question for you. What is your tip to venture into new markets? Because now when Helen started at that time, the market was small. You knew probably every single one of your competitors. Nowadays, it is getting quite hectic, and you brought BSL battery into quite a heated environment. There is many storage manufacturers, good ones out there, but still you manage to place them at a really good position in the market. So what is your tip? How do you venture into a new market and how do you make it successful?
I think every new market venture requires a very robust and flexible, high quality supply chain. I know that in part Anton and Wido and Junior have touched on things like that. Supply chain is key. You'll find that a lot of the guys that start off in the marketplace, as was alluded to a little bit earlier, referenced that stock was a problem. It was super priced. You also mentioned a few moments ago that we've now moved from Voltronics-based inverters, and we've got guys like SunSync playing in here and other kinds of investment in technology from other companies. So the supply chains are getting better and better. And there's a direct correlation that we find where the supply chain quality actually increases the quality of customer that the installer brings to them. So oftentimes when we're playing in the residential space, you'll find that you will start at one point in the market where you'll have your cheaper, not to say there's anything wrong with them, but your cheaper entry-level solar equipment. And as you grow your business, you then get forced to adopt a higher quality supply chain where you have customers insisting on products that are much more expensive, require more expertise. And so you start to make a transition into those areas. Those come with higher margins. Those also come with better training, better support, and better access to stock, because the more premium-based products do not sell as fast. But in terms of the last 18 months, that's kind of changed a little bit though. So there's direct correlations between your scalability of your company with the change in your supply chain. Coming back to the original question of markets, that's a funny one, because we all think in very broad strokes when it comes to markets. But markets can be defined and markets can be segmented and cut into smaller pieces. And when we have the right mindset to do that, we can find niche areas that we can move into that nobody is there yet. And that is exactly what we did with BSL battery. We took a risk in terms of importing a container. We started with one container. We wanted to put our toes in the marketplace. We wanted to see how it would go. And after a robust 3 years of investment, marketing, finding the right channel partners, continuously reinvesting, as Anton has alluded to in your business, we've come to be one of the top players. We're top 4. 1 out of every 4 lithium battery is a BSL battery now. And because of that, we've now attracted high level or high quality supply chains moving into other countries, where we can now start being the exporter of energy storage. So it's a nice position that I'm working in that now. I hope that answers your question, but you got to know your marketplace. So if you ask yourself a few questions, you are obviously, do you play in residential? Do you play in C&I? Do you play in small scale or large? Within those spaces, where do you fit the most? And you can always have a snapshot from the beginning of your business to where it is now. Some guys will be in this business for years, some maybe 6 months, but you can take a snapshot for the progression of the kind of customer you're bringing on board and where you are now. And that'll give you an indication if you're in a medium-sized residential home, which would be sort of medium to high income. Are you playing with high income? Are you playing with the elite earners? You can have a bit of creativity, but the nuts and bolts of it is such that you're able to then identify my target customer. The face of my customer is a medium to high earner, 4-bedroom house. These are the typical residential areas they stay in. These are the typical systems that we install. These are the typical margins that we make. And by zeroing in on that, you can then look at the numbers. You can look at the supply chain. You understand where you are playing right now, your market space, and you can start to find your space, your groove, what you're doing right. Why are you taking those clients on? What is it that's attracting the customers to you? Why did you lose the very big home in Fourways, but you won 3 of these houses in Randburg? And by taking that kind of approach, a little bit of a management accounting approach, but it's not difficult. You can understand where you fit in your specific market, and you can zero in on that, and you can then have the ability to upscale, and you can take on another team. You can focus on the correct kind of marketing strategies to pull more in. Those are what I would advise, and those are normally the roll up your sleeves approach that tends to work much more effectively in the short to medium or medium to long than any kind of social media campaign would, or any of those kinds of things. And it's going to cost you a lot less money.
Mm-hmm. And we're going back, like it makes all sense now. We said earlier, know yourself so that you can be a good manager. Now we have know your business and your customers, that you can grow what you're good at and adjust your marketing to that. I think that's very useful.
I think a key takeaway is the word customer success, or the phrase customer success. Customer success is an experience. And if you can create that experience, like Anton creates that experience where people say, oh, well, I've never experienced this before. That is something that stands the test of time. It's completely free and it spreads. It's all about the customer experience.
Definitely. One last question, and then we move on to the questions of our audience. So if anyone has a question from the audience, still pop it into the Q&A, and then we'll get to that in a minute. But my last question is, Nigel, do you have any information sources where you can learn about that? Because it's like, yes, we all want to analyze, but that strategic thinking and that analyzing, I think it is quite a skill. Do you have any tips how to practice that, how to read up on that, anything that can help?
I'm an avid learner, so I do a lot of self-education. I buy a lot of books, and I educate myself. So quickest thing you can do is log into Amazon or Exclusive Books, and you can type in keywords like innovation. And you'll get authors like Charles Christensen, who writes about innovation and how you can apply innovative principles immediately. It forces you to look at things from a different viewpoint, and it forces you to ask questions you never asked before. And then by doing that, you're able to conclude new answers. So a lot of it is just, you got to go on that journey of self-education. You gotta invest in the reading. You know, I know that we all work at night, but you got to make time for it. Otherwise, you can't really evolve your thinking process. And if you can't do that, you're not really going to evolve your business over time.
To what extent does Get Off Grid help an installer?
So we empower installers with obviously when I refer to supply chain, we are a key supply chain with many installers in the marketplace. We also provide training and education every month. We also directly hold the warranties for numerous products that we supply. So our service, our 24-hour turnaround times on support calls and service and repair. We do this and we invest in this because the longer it takes us to uphold warranty, or the weaker our service department is, the more it's going to cost our customer money. Because that customer might not get paid for their job to be completed because, like Anton said earlier, that customer is not happy and is refusing to pay the balance. So we're very aware as a supply chain, our role, and we regard ourselves as an effective stakeholder, if you want to look at it like that, in all of our customers' businesses. And that is why we take a lot of pride and we do a lot of R&D on our batteries, because we know that downtime on those can and most likely does cost our customers money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So I have 3 questions from the audience here. First one, I want to know from the Canadian panelists, that would be you, Wido, what the smallest scale installations are costing, more or less. Is it something they are giving attention to in order to increase the uptake of solar in South Africa?
I think we're a panel manufacturer and our panels are mostly bigger, the bigger ones. I think nowadays our smallest panel is somewhere around 400 watts. And that means you take a panel like that and you take a small charge controller and a car battery. That's kind of your small solution. Canadian Solar has invested into a startup called SolarWorks, and they basically do rural electrification. And they've got little stackable units with small panels, 50 watts, 100 watts panels. And that would be another solution. But I think these solutions come from many distributors. There are lots of different solutions out there. So I think one can spend as little as, let's say, 1,000 Rand for a system, up to 300,000 Rand when you want to have a big house with everything on it go off grid. And by the way, that's actually not the best to do, although everybody wants to get away from Eskom. And I think, you know, being on the grid and sharing resources is saving you money. And it's this together we are much stronger than on our own that I started with. It is not good to go off the grid. So yes, there are small systems from very small to big. And I think, as I said it earlier, there is a need for these smaller packages in the market where people can start small and then modular grow bigger. So they start with a 2 kilowatt, 3 kilowatt system, and they can grow that. And the beauty about it is what I've seen always, every installer or houses that things were installed, the first week you get the first WhatsApp saying, listen, see how much kilowatts I've already produced. Look what my system has done. And people get excited and they get addicted. So they want more. The next paycheck comes, they add a few more panels to it. So I think that is, start small, grow this thing. It is the beauty about solar systems, that they're modular. And the other question that was from Tanyani, I think it was about the trainings. We do the trainings together with our distributors, Rubicon, Herald, Seagen, Kathia, and so on. So these are the people that we do the trainings with. But of course, we're here at Green. So that's the best in the first address to go for training. And then there is also a channel that's called YouTube. I mean, there's so much on YouTube that you can just get the basics, the 101s on solar, to just learn in your free time in the evenings, instead of watching some boring television show. grab a YouTube video and check out how to install, how to do this from all the manufacturers, from all different institutions. There are hundreds of YouTube videos that you can look at and just get the basics going. And then you go to a proper academy like Greens and get your proper certification and things like that. But I think there is a lot that one can do in terms of self-education. Nigel mentioned that as well, buying a lot of books and educating him. So I think that is really part and parcel of getting into the space, and you will not regret it. I'm saying that over and over again. For the next 20 years, there is so many roofs that needs to be plastered. There's so much work to be done. I think everybody that gets into this space will have got a bright future.
Definitely, yeah.
And maybe what I can add to Anton and Nigel and everybody, those that have got businesses, take on interns, take on young people that left school and just want to get into this. It is so important that we take these people and show them what this industry can offer, and generate that appetite to become part of renewable energy. It's really important to take on interns to show them at least for a week or two just what is happening, how it works, so that these guys get excited and say, okay, yes, I want to be part of this.
We'll have lots of interns soon because we're training a lot of young people together with an NGO in South Africa soon. So whoever wants one, contact me. Yes, that off-grid systems that you mentioned, SolarWorks, is spelled with an X at the end, right? So it's SolarWorks with an X in case you want to Google.
Yes, that's correct.
Good. Then I have another question about quality. Helen said companies grow too quick when load shedding is flooding them with clients. Now that more and more cheap products are in the market, installers can offer very cheap products. How do you grow healthy and compete with that cheap competition? Nigel, do you want to answer that?
Solutions like that come from the numbers now, if you want to make that argument. And you're not going to win all the business because a lot of people don't care. But what I've found is when I've mapped out a model, very simple kind of numbers model where you clearly illustrate that you're going to pay 40% more for this particular product, but over the medium to long term, it's going to be cheaper for you because the one that you want to take, which is going to save you 40%, 30% now, is not only going to become redundant, the warranty is going to expire, the quality of the product is going to deteriorate, and you're most likely going to have to replace it anyway. And at that point of replacement, it's probably going to be more expensive or non-compatible with what you've already got. So when you can put that into the numbers, you're able to show the customer a very objective picture where you're not seen anymore as someone that's just trying to be a salesperson. You're now becoming an advisor. And you're now educating. I've had to do that with entrenched distributors that don't want to budge from current supply chains into different countries, and by mapping things out in a nice, easy to understand way, it's definitely changed the conversation, and it does help you win more business.
Yeah, definitely. And it comes back to what we mentioned earlier, putting an emphasis on that personal contact and then taking the time to educate your client. And I think that does pay off.
Sorry, Vivian.
Yes.
Could I maybe just add a practical example of something like that? As Nigel said, the numbers, and I think in this case, I don't know what specifically you're referring to, but I've got an instance where my client 2 years ago asked me to provide them with a backup system. I provided them with both options, the one for an inverter that is compatible with lithium and a lithium battery. And I gave them the other option that they said to that, basically, that's too much. Why is everyone else getting it for so cheap? And I gave them the option to go, at that stage, lithium was still pretty expensive. I gave them the option to go with AGM or a gel battery with a lower grade inverter that's obviously not compatible with lithium. And now 2 years later, I've recently had phone calls from them asking my batteries aren't lasting. They're not carrying me through the full 2 hours or now even 4 hours of load shedding. What am I to do? And in this week, they basically pay a deposit for a full solar system with a replacement inverter and a lithium battery option. So in the long term, yes, it's unfortunate that they had to learn the lesson the hard way, but yes, the numbers does talk, and I use that now as an example to anyone else who ever asks me, should I go with AGM or gel? And in this day and age, I just don't believe the technology is what we need. It does have its own application, and there is a place for it, I believe. But yeah, it's true, as you say, Nigel, the numbers do speak, especially when it's money related.
Yeah,
Can I also make a comment?
yes.
So something that I think, Wido, you mentioned earlier, you need to say no. And it's important also to look at it from your own perspective. If you are a smaller installation company, can you afford to spend 2 days servicing a client who you've sold a cheap system to, and it's now not working, or the component has failed because it's not well manufactured? So it's from a client perspective, look at your long term and your savings, but it's also from you are growing your company, where are you putting your focus? Do you want to focus on fixing up rubbish that you're putting into the market, or do you want to go with a brand that is like trusted and reliable?
Yeah, because your time as the company founder is so valuable, hey? You need to spend it wisely.
Definitely.
I have one last question, and then we would come to an end. Tanyani is asking, what percentage, like good industry practice, what percentage deposit do you ask the customer to put down? Maybe the installer can answer that one.
Quick answer from my side is there must be a commitment. So, and cash is a commitment. So a deposit is a commitment that they are serious about this. And I think it depends on how good your customer know your customer. And some of them you say, okay, it's fine, I'll deliver without a deposit. But in the normal circumstances, you need to cover at least your costs that you lay out for the equipment that you buy.
Agreed.
So I normally go by like brackets. Everything above 2,500 Rand up to 100,000 Rand total bill, I charge 50% upfront, and then above 100,000 Rand, my margins become so low that I need to cover, as you say, Wido, at least the cost of the major big equipment like your inverter, all your panels, all your rails, and yeah, I mean you can barely really make profit on labor nowadays. So yeah, I would say 80%. That's just, for me, it's a viable option. In that way, I still am also coming to the party financially to cover cost of equipment. And yes, and that 20% is only payable once the client's happy, everything's been done, final handover has been done, and all those things have been handled and done with. So yeah, I don't know what others might charge. It'd be interesting to find out.
I think again, I think I resonate with what Wido says a lot today. But you need to look at what your costs are, and you need to structure it so that you don't put yourself into a cash flow issue to deliver a project, and have that commitment both from your side and the client side, and to measure where that needs to lie. I think each business is unique in the way that they're structured and the way their costs and their money needs to flow. So it is a personal decision, but a good starting point is, what does my money flow look like? And then how can I get my client to finance what he needs to do, and where do I need to put capital in?
I think it also changes over time, judging from what you said now and like being at the different development stages. Sounds like you can also adjust once you've grown a bit. Yeah, I see that there was another question popping up in between and Nigel started replying already. So if you have any questions, like specific ones also on products, we popped the details of all our panelists in the chat so that you can send them an email afterwards. I think all of you are willing to get feedback, get questions from our audience and are willing to help. And yeah, that was so interesting. I think we could have continued. And I see the participants are not leaving us, even though we're already 6 minutes over time, which is always a good sign that it is really interesting. And yeah, it was so cool to talk to you. I think it was very interesting having the variety of all your different experiences and companies in the panel. And if I sum up what we discussed now, so we said to scale up a business, information is key. You need to know financially what's going on in your company. You need to know what is your market. The more information you have, the more or the better decisions you can make and the better you can decide when is the time to grow and into what direction do you want to go. Your own time is precious. Your time as the head of the company or the key person in the company is very precious. So plan your day, say no, reconsider, is the thing that I'm doing viable? Ask yourself why am I doing it? And then quality. I think this is a general thing that we, not only in this panel, but in every other panel we have and every other discussion I have, it's always getting back to that. Using quality products pays off. And in the long term, it is a good foundation to base your business on. And then the last point in the list was networking and knowledge, exchange with others and use the network, connecting with others to grow your business, to exchange, to learn from each other, because I think that was proof enough today that there is enough knowledge in our industry, now that it's not in its infancy anymore, but that it's like a serious, fully grown industry. There are a lot of people to ask. So use those resources, use those LinkedIns and everything to connect. Yeah, so that was, I think, the key information. We will provide the link to the recording to everyone who signed up for this, who attended today, and you're welcome to share it with your network. And I want to say just thank you to all our panelists for making time, for joining, for sharing your knowledge, and for growing the cake together. I like that, Wido. You introduced something nice here. Yeah, so let's continue doing that. And thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.